Welcome to Better Sex, where you get the information and inspiration to create and enjoy your best possible sex life. Join your host, sex therapist Jessa Zimmerman, as she brings you expert guests, helpful tips, knowledge, and strategies to improve your intimate relationships. And now, your host, Jessa Zimmerman.
Hi, I'm Jessa. Welcome to Better Sex. I'm doing this because I think sex is important. We are not living our fullest life the most fulfilling way we can if we are not intimately, emotionally, and sexually connected with our partner. So I'm here every week bringing tips, perspectives, experts, ideas, strategies to help you improve your sex life. Enjoy the show. So today's episode is yet another of my personal story interviews. I am loving doing these. I think they're really impactful. I have to imagine that you as a listener enjoy hearing from just regular people who have been through stuff and hearing what they've done about it. And on that note, if you would like to be on the podcast, I would love to talk to you. If you've been through something sexually, if stuff has happened in your sexual journey and development that you think other people could benefit from hearing, please get in touch with me through bettersexpodcast.com. You can send me an email and I will absolutely follow up. So today's show is an interview with Pia, who is the mother of a trans teenager. Well, now her son is 20, but he was a teenager. She had a daughter who came to her at 15 and said that she really was a boy. So Pia shares her story of what that was like to hear and the support that they gathered around her child and around the kinds of issues and challenges and decisions that they faced and how she has thought about this all along. And her family was actually both she and her husband were supportive, and so was their extended family, and so was their school and community. So they didn't have some of the same challenges that other people face who might be listening to the podcast, but there's still a journey for the family. And so Pia's here sharing her personal story about this, and I hope you enjoy it. So Pia, thank you so much for being willing to be on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a real honor.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing your story. I love doing the personal stories. I think they have a lot of impact for people listening. So,
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your decision. You saying yes to me to do this, right? What went into agreeing to be on the show?
Because I think it's really important that other families hear my story and understand that they're not alone in the transition, and that they are probably experiencing the same things that I went through, and that it's okay, that it's a process. I also think that the more stories that we share, the easier it'll get for teenagers to go through this transition. I've heard horror stories of it breaking families apart, and it just breaks my heart. So the more support that I show the community, the stronger it'll make the kids.
Yeah, I believe with all that. So, thank you for sharing it, because I do think it's got that much impact. So where does your family story start around trans?
It starts, so I have two teenagers. The oldest is the one that transitioned. He is 20 now. He was a she.
Okay.
And, I didn't really have any clues. He came to me, I think it was right before Mother's Day, when he was 15.
Okay.
He was cutting himself.
Oh, gosh.
So,
did you know that at the time?
I did not know that.
Okay.
And so he was cutting himself. He was depressed. We put him through therapy and medication. And, when your child hurts, you hurt. So
yeah.
it was horrible. And we thought everything was under control. And then he started again. And we were at a restaurant. We were talking about a family member that was having some very emotional issues around coming out. He had come out in college, and he didn't feel comfortable. His family was very supportive, but I could see that it really affected him. We were sitting there eating dinner. And I said, because I knew that he was bisexual. And so we had this discussion before.
So that's something that he's already shared with you at that point.
Yeah, he had already shared,
okay.
Yeah. He had already shared that with me, 6 months previous. And I said, well, why don't you reach out to him and give him some encouragement? So he did. And I said, how did it go? And I think because I was more open about talking about other people and their journeys, whether it's trans or gay or whatever they're going through, I think he felt more comfortable because he said, you know what? I have something I want to share with you. It's going to be your Mother's Day gift, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm gay. I'm like, yeah. So it wasn't a big deal. And I wasn't really surprised. And he goes, but there's something else. And that's when, I didn't think that being trans was going to be the next thing, but it was.
So right at that moment, you're looking at a daughter.
Yes.
Right.
I'm looking at a daughter.
You're thinking of her as a girl, and you're thinking she's saying she's basically lesbian.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what could this other thing be?
Which, to be honest, I don't care because, love is love.
Right.
If you want to marry a guy or a girl, I just want you to be happy. Right.
Right.
So then he said, well, I think I should have been born a boy. I can't remember the conversation exactly, but I've never felt comfortable in my skin. The reason why I've been cutting is because I was afraid that you wouldn't accept me.
Oh. I can see the tears in your eyes right now.
So I thought that I was pretty open.
Yeah.
About saying, you can come to me with anything. So apparently he'd been cutting for 2 years.
Wow.
Not knowing how to approach us and let us know that that's how he had been feeling. So that was huge because I felt guilty and responsible for what had happened for 2 years.
Wow.
And of course, I know now that it wasn't my fault. It was just what's going on in his head. It was a big deal. He was afraid that my husband wouldn't take it well or that he wouldn't get support or anything like that. And I say he because he's a he now, right?
Right.
And it was a girl. It was my baby girl.
Yeah.
So I immediately, just embraced him or her at the time and said, what does that mean to you? And why do you feel this way? And we had these great conversations. So here's the situation. I have a 15-year-old girl who I have to be strong for.
Right.
And, be comforting and supportive. And I literally just would fall apart as soon as he went to school. So.
And was that out of your sense of guilt, or how did I not portray myself as open and supportive, or was that over?
Well, it was part of that, but it was also a mourning. You're literally mourning the death of someone who is no longer there. They're still the same person.
Yeah.
But the idea of this is your daughter, all the plans you had for her, all the stories that you had built up around her. She's still the same person.
Right. But the vision is different, isn't it?
But the vision is different.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was mourning that. It felt like death to me. What got me through it was just the joy that I saw after that first conversation. I mean,
because you're getting a birth too, right? You're getting a death and a birth. Too.
So he stopped cutting. He was just like so excited that now someone knew. Apparently his friends knew, but and so I had lots of questions, right? And I started doing research and we talked about, what does this mean? Well, I want to talk about doing hormones or getting hormone treatment. And I was like, okay, first of all, that's another conversation. But we really had to tell, his dad. So they confided in you, separate from your husband, from their dad. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So that was another conversation we need to have.
Yeah. So the other conversation, so we worked on kind of brainstorming of, what do you think dad's going to say? What do you think his reaction's going to be? And let's play it out, because we didn't want it to be a negative situation. I didn't actually know what he was going to respond with.
Okay. So you weren't quite as hesitant to share this with your husband. I mean, you didn't think this was necessarily going to be a big deal.
I know my husband loves our children, so
Yes.
no, I didn't. Well,
Right.
I knew it was going to be a big deal for him, but I didn't think he was going to screw it up.
Right.
No.
Because love is love, right?
Yeah,
Like,
love is love.
he feels that way too.
So, but I could tell that he was scared.
Yeah.
Because of the unknown.
Okay.
And his dad was supportive, but had the same reservations I had, like the next steps and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So supportive of the fact that your child is trans, but it's like, what is this? What does it mean? What does this mean? What do we do medically? Like there's it opens up a whole can of worms.
Yeah. Exactly.
And can I ask you, as you were going through some of the mourning part of this, did you feel like you could share that with your child at all? Or was this, you had to do that totally?
I had to do it totally
alone.
by myself.
Okay.
I could not share that. I mean, he's 15 and going through this whole struggle. I'm not going to put my baggage on it.
Right.
I just thought it was too much to share.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, I did say, hey, this has been hard for me.
Okay. I was going to ask if even years later, did you ever share like, wow, that involved a mourning process as much as a celebration?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was the first phase, letting the cat out of the bag. And the family was very positive about it, very supportive.
You're talking extended family?
Yeah. So my mom, my husband's mom, my brother, I mean, everyone was supportive. So, which was a huge help.
Yeah. How long did you know before your husband was told?
A day.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
in my mind, it sounded longer. And it's like, how in the world did you manage to go have all that in your mind?
No, I was
okay.
I was a wreck. So I wasn't gonna shoulder that.
Okay. So we got to tell dad right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So everybody in the extended family is supportive.
Yeah. And just like me, they were very curious, like, what does that mean? Does that mean that she wants to change physically, to just do it gradually, like how fast? Like, does that, they start asking, so are you attracted to boys or girls?
Right.
And I always sent them to the TED Talk by the Swedish doctor, who explained perfectly that it wasn't about who they went to bed with, it was who they went to bed as.
Right.
Right. So I think that helped clear everything up.
I'll make sure to find a link for that and put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. So then we start having discussions together, her dad and me, about hormone treatment. And this didn't start until probably 6 months later.
Okay.
Because thankfully, because she was moving slowly and, didn't want to just dump everything on us.
And were you still using she at that point? Like how?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It took me a couple years actually to use the right pronouns.
Oh, okay. So he was ready way before you could fully integrate that shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I did a lot of studying. I did a lot of learning. I read books. I interviewed doctors from all over the United States. I was going to make an informed decision, and I was going to help her make an informed decision on what to do next.
Right.
So I was fortunate to find a doctor in Seattle who was highly regarded and had worked with transitioning teens for many, many years. And I said, okay, we can go in and talk to him. That's all I'm going to do. Right. Because then, I want grandbabies. Like, what is this going to do for the future?
Yeah.
I start thinking, which I know is selfish, but
what's the impact on me? Right.
You can't stop these questions in your head.
Yeah.
So we went to the doctor, and he was amazing. And I'm happy to share his contact information if people are interested. He basically walked us through the process. He walked us through what the side effects were, if any, what the options were. And then even insurance, he said, if your insurance doesn't cover this, I'll go to court to make sure that it's covered.
Wow.
He told us about the whole state of Washington and how they're making it regulated by the insurance company and making it covered.
Oh, okay.
And so in September of that year, I don't remember what year it was the commissioner did allow it to be covered by insurance.
Okay.
Hormone treatments.
Which may be different across other states. Like, I don't know where people are that are listening. That may not be the same situation all over
Washington. I got to say, if there's any place that this could have happened, this is the perfect place.
Yeah.
Washington has come along leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
In supporting. So then she at that time also joined a group in Bellevue that is amazing. I can give you that information as well, supporting teenagers that wanted to transition.
Mm.
It was devastating because my child was one of 15 that had been accepted for the decision. The rest were either kicked out of their homes, bullied, ridiculed, not accepted
by their families.
Yeah. So my child would come home just so upset that other people weren't getting the same support as she was.
Yeah.
So I think that brought us together even closer, because then we had people reaching out to us.
Right.
Right. And saying, what do I do? I'm scared. I'm afraid. Like, my child, why would my child want to do this? So I helped a couple moms, and she helped a couple of kids have conversations. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's just about having a conversation.
Yeah.
And getting it out there. And because you have all these questions. So she started the hormone treatment, started, growing the beard, growing the hair everywhere. The voice went deep.
Wow.
And of course, we lived together. So it was a transition that was slow, right?
But I'm imagining there might be almost new phases of grieving with each one of those changes, potentially. Or do you feel like most of that came at the front end of the news?
Most of it came at the front end, but I tell you, it hits you when you least expect it.
Yeah.
I'm a photographer and I take pictures everywhere. And so there's pictures of her on my computer and on my walls, and like they just pop up and Facebook and, and again, it's not a different person, but it's a different time. It's a different time in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was difficult. So everything went well, still on hormone treatment. Now he has decided he wants to have top surgery, which means removing the breasts.
Right, right.
That was a little harder to accept for some reason, because now you're talking about something that might have side effects, that might have some side effects, might be dangerous because you're going under. But again, the doctor we had was fabulous. He walked us through it. And after that operation, I could really see the change in my child from being depressed and anxiety ridden to stepping into his own character and personality and being confident and saying, finally, I feel like myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was it. That was like, okay, this was meant to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then we had a difficult conversation about having other surgeries. I said, I don't know how I feel about having you go through that. And obviously it's your life. You're going to be an adult soon. And he assured me that it's not something he's going to take lightly and probably won't do for several years.
Yeah.
It's very expensive and it's
right.
a decision. But we just have such a great open conversation about everything now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was nice when we'd go out and they would address him as sir. He was just like, finally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a good friend who's a stylist, who I hired to take him out in his senior year to get a new wardrobe.
Oh, wow.
And that was amazing. He's like, I'm going to go for a prom king this year. And he held himself proud and confident. So that was a huge milestone. Yeah. And it's been great. It really has.
Yeah. What a gift to the, I'm just imagining the whole stylist and shopping trip kind of thing, because, you've got a child who's needs to be in a new way in the world, right? Has to present, more authentically like how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd imagine almost everything that they had before, is inappropriate now, like doesn't fit, right?
Yeah, it doesn't fit. And, there's still some times where he gets aggravated because he still has a certain feminine shape, that you can't get away with. And he, tends to wear a little beard, a little goatee, just to make sure that he, will look manly and everything. But yeah, he's pretty much my son in my eyes now.
Right. Hi, it's Jessa. We're just going to take a quick pause here, or a little breather in the middle of the show. Thanks for listening so far. I'm wondering if you have a question that you want me to answer on a future episode. You can actually record a question for me at our website, bettersexpodcast.com. You're going to find the recorder on the footer of every page and on the side of the episode posts. And if I choose your question, I'll play it on the air and answer it as part of the show. I'd love to hear from you. And so he's your older child.
Yeah.
Did you watch anything happen between your two kids in terms of their relationship, or was this just no big deal and they carry it on as normal?
My youngest was so supportive. He's 17 now, so he was, I guess, 13.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years apart. So actually 12. He was 12. Didn't faze him at all. He was supportive the whole time. He even gave her a Christmas card that said, I love you no matter whether you're my brother or sister.
Mm.
So
yeah,
that was really sweet. And had no problem calling her a him.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's the age or just.
Yeah, or if it's something siblings know about each other or something. I'm trying, thinking about some of the other families I know where the kids adjust very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll also share that we had one of his friends was kicked out when he was transitioning and lived with us for a little while. And it was it was sad, but it was encouraging to help someone else through the journey.
Yeah.
And really be their cheering group.
Right.
When you're not accepted by your parents, and this person is 17, 18, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know you said you did a lot of research and you reached out to doctors and things like that. Did you find support among other parents, that had been through this and or help to you? No, you had to.
I found more of I found some groups. This all happened kind of on the cusp of a lot more teenagers coming out and feeling comfortable with their transition.
Yeah.
This has just happened in the last 6 years that, and that's what it makes me angry when people say, oh, it's just a trend. It's not a trend. It's allowing these kids to be who they are and be honest and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable in my skin.
Yeah.
And I never have. So I would watch interviews, and it was more parents coming to me because I was very vocal about it. I did other podcasts. I went to meetings. I posted things. And I was a little afraid of the backlash, but my community embraced me.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yeah. All right. And I'm trying to think, some of the articles, I haven't been through this myself.
Yeah.
So, but as I read things about it, sometimes people say, oh, there were these signs all along when you look back. But you said really you had no signs.
She was a tomboy. She never wanted to wear clothes. But lots of kids are like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
she was a very angry child too. She
Mm,
went to a very angry, always having temperature, just very angry.
yeah.
And it turns out because she was confused. She said, I didn't even know what I was feeling. I didn't even have a name for it until I went on YouTube and started seeing other teenagers sharing what they were feeling.
Yeah.
She didn't even know what transgender meant.
Right. Right.
And finally, putting a name to it was really helpful.
Yeah.
It's just like if you get an illness, if the doctors just throw up their hands, they don't know what's wrong with you, but it's almost like you feel like you're just making stuff up.
Right. Right. But to understand this is an actual thing, that you're not alone. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then the language and it was really hard for me to go from she to he. I got to be honest.
Really.
Yeah. And to go from one name to another. So he changed his name legally.
Okay.
That for me, for some reason, was hard because, I picked the name.
Yeah, exactly. We name our babies. We're attached to those. And it's,
Exactly. I'm like, what's wrong with your name? And it was ironic because it was such a feminine name.
that he had before.
Oh my gosh. Both first and middle name was very feminine.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And you couldn't even shorten it really.
Yeah.
Male. So he chose his first and middle name and went to the courts and changed it. Of course, you have to change all your paperwork. That's a big hassle. Yeah. It was quite a while before I started using his, and not intentionally. I tried really hard, and it took a while for family and friends too, as well. But
yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And so once he hit 18, I guess, as an adult, I mean, how much are you still involved in conversations about what choices he makes or what surgery? I mean, at this point, he can make those decisions alone, right?
Oh yeah, but he shares it with me.
Yeah.
He feels comfortable in his skin now. He is still healing because there's scarring from the operation, the top surgery. So we're looking at maybe some plastic surgery to take care of that. Yeah, but it's almost like it's so far. It's so long ago.
Yeah.
So much time has passed.
Yeah.
And I'm not really looking for people who are going through this, but I'm open to speaking with them because I know it is super hard. It is like mourning a death.
Yeah.
Really is.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because I think I would imagine that you could feel bad about having sad feelings. Your kid tells you something like this and you love them to death and of course accept it. But the reality is something is different. And so we need to grieve that.
Yeah.
Right. It's a transition for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts for, certainly for most people that are going to listen to this, they may not even know somebody who's trans, but for those that either know a family like this or it's happening with their own child or
I do have, I do have some tips and some advice. The biggest fear that I've found that people have, no matter how old your child is, I mean, there's children that knew when they were 3.
Yeah. I've read about that, right?
It's incredible, the stuff I'm finding out.
Right.
They just know. They know for sure. But it's more apparent in teenagers because now they're, they're like, something's got to be done. I don't feel right. Not to immediately assume that they're going through a phase. That's the first thing I was told. Are you sure it's not a phase? This is not a phase. This is not them doing it because their friend is doing it. It's not doing it because they're peer pressured.
They're not doing it to rebel against you. Right? Yeah.
No, it's what coming out as gay was 20 years ago. I was in San Francisco State when the gay community was just embracing it and coming out, and people were just horrible. They were like, "Oh, it's a phase. You're just acting out, or you're just trying it on like a hat." It's not trying it on like a hat.
Yeah.
It's who I was born to be. And I know it in my soul and I know it in my skin. And so we just have to help them.
Yeah.
But I will say that you definitely want to have your child talk to someone. You're not trying to prove them wrong. You're not trying to make sure they've made the right decision, but you want to cover everything. You want to make sure that they've really thought deeply about this, especially if they're going to be making physical changes. Hormone
Right.
therapy, you can always stop and go back to who you were. But if you start making physical changes to your
surgery, right?
Surgery, yeah. It's a big decision, and they won't even do it without, some sort of therapy.
Right.
Yeah, just make sure that they have that support, because it can be very depressing and anxiety inducing going through this whole process, because they're worried about your reaction. They're worried about your health and your well-being.
Right.
Worried about themselves.
Right. And what about, I forgot to ask you, what about peers at school, things like that? Did he encounter, because there's certainly, I know a lot of places in the country where you'd get bullied or beat up or harmed.
So, apparently most of his friends knew before we did.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a support group already in the high school, and the teachers were so supportive. They made sure that he felt comfortable in gym.
Right.
Made sure that he was able to go to the bathroom that he wanted to go to.
Right.
They had conversations with the class, not about my child, but in general.
Right.
And they were amazing. Amazing.
Because I'm imagining some of the people listening are going to have a different experience, that even if they and their family support the child, the community may not.
Yeah.
That would be really.
So as soon as we found out, we emailed and contacted the counselor at the school and said, I just want to let you know that this has become, we're aware of the situation. We don't want our child to get hurt, or either mentally or physically or verbally. What do we need to do now? And I got permission from my child to discuss it with the teachers, because they, it's a transition, and they need to know what's going on. It would be the same as if my child had lost a parent. You want to let people know in the child's life, like teachers, what's going on, because you will see a change in behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's not the case around the world.
Yeah.
But
hopefully we're on our way there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. And hopefully conversations like this open people's minds, right?
Yeah.
Like people that haven't thought about this before.
Yeah, exactly.
So, great. Any last thoughts or ideas you want to pass on?
It's okay to feel selfish in the beginning, and to feel like, why me? And, and just be very confused. It's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you don't take it out on your kid, as long as you are honest with them and say, this is going to be a process.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes me think, I would encourage people to get their own support too. So just like you're saying, make sure your child has someone to talk to. You as a parent or as an aunt or whatever you might need somebody too.
Yeah.
To sort of work through everything that this means.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, if you do have, links or books or resources that you want to share, I will absolutely put those in the show notes. So
I will.
Just send those along. So, Well, thank you again for sharing the story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Better Sex. Please visit our website, bettersexpodcast.com, for show notes and additional episodes.
And that's a wrap for today. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you are enjoying the podcast, if some of this material resonates with you and you would like to make a difference and make sure that this keeps coming out in the world once a week, ongoing, there are a couple things you could do to show your appreciation. The first would be to go to iTunes and rate and review the show. That really helps us be found by new listeners when you review the show on iTunes. You can find a link at bettersexpodcast.com/iTunes. The other thing I want to invite you to consider is becoming a Patreon. For a small monthly pledge, you get some benefits. So for $2 a month, you get advance access to every single episode. For $5 a month, you get a chapter of my upcoming new book. And for $10 a month, I host quarterly get to know you and question and answer chats over the web, and you get invited to that. I would love to have your membership in that, become part of the Better Sex family. You can find a link at bettersexpodcast.com/Patreon, which is Patreon. Again, thanks for listening. I'm glad you're here. Feel free to comment, ask questions, get in touch. I'd love to hear from listeners. Thanks.